everybody. Welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. I'm looking forward to talking with Kurt Stein. Kurt, it's great to connect with you, and we're going to spend some time talking about AI. Your company, DCT Strategy, is really focusing on AI with your clients. And, I like to start every episode off. I'm a business coach, and so I like to start every episode. I work with successful people who are stuck. I get them unstuck. And I always like to start off asking guess what's your stuck and how did you get unstuck? But I'm going to change the question a little bit to what's most people stuck when it comes to AI and how do they get unstuck?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me, John.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, I can answer both questions if you like. My stuck and then AI stuck. Anybody running businesses, you always have challenges. You have challenges with people. You have challenges with marketing. You have challenges with lining everybody up in terms of projects. So the stuck portion at the beginning, especially with AI, and then it can go into that question as well, is it's so new. It's not new from an AI perspective. It's been around for 16 to 20 years, but from a mass general exposure, it is very new for companies. So the biggest challenge for them is not understanding what they should do. So my stuck was, how do I get the message out there and help companies understand what they should do and how they should go about it in order to start adapting to AI. So it was a marketing messaging standpoint in the beginning of how do you get to your audience and how is it a clearer message and how do you help them cut through the noise and demystify what it is about AI and what they really should be thinking about. Is it fear of missing out or is it something they should pay attention to? So that was my stuck in the beginning. Now from, kind of transition to from an AI perspective with companies, it is so new from a mass scale perspective. I mean, if you're looking at Amazon, if you're looking at MasterCard, if you look at some massive companies, they've been using it for a while. They've had it intertwined within their businesses and they use it for, different functionality. But if you look at what happened on the mass side, you had GPT just explode in November, where they had 100 million users in 2 months, which was just unheard of in terms of all other social media adaptations that were out there. And now the only thing that's past them is Threads. I think Threads got to 100 million in about 2 weeks. So that was the only difference there. But from an AI perspective, what that only did is it provided mass exposure to everybody. And then everybody was able to use the GPT. So the interface, the GUI interface was so simple. The responses were so profound that is what got people to open their eyes and say, oh my God, this is tangible. It is easy to use. And wow, the information's pretty impressive. So that began, maybe you can say, the big race now from an AI perspective where companies are like, oh my God, what can I do with this? The challenge for companies, and even now after we're almost a year now, but the challenge is even today is they don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
So if you look at, levels in terms of where companies are, there's nobody that's all AI right now. There's going to be a lot of companies, new companies that come out, the VC firms who are working with companies that will probably come out as just AI enabled. There's maybe one or none right now. The majority fit within, they've started working with AI, maybe one use case. They're just testing it out. That's a majority of companies that are out there. Very few that move into the next layer, which is they've already rolled out a model and they're already becoming more proficient at it, and they're starting to roll out other models. So with that said, the biggest challenge is, where do they begin? What do they start with? Do they look at cost savings? Do they look at productivity enhancements? Do they look at revenue generation? Where do they begin? And I think it becomes paralysis, by analysis. Yeah. And that's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think I see that a lot too. And it's almost like sometimes people just put it on the back burner and don't prioritize it because they can't look at it and quantify it and extract a goal from it. But that's what we're going to do today, everybody in community. So let's kind of dive into that, as far as where they do begin. And so how do they begin to see this as almost like a product that they pull off the shelf that they can put their hands around, right? There's no real instruction manual of what to do with AI. And it can fit into so many elements of the business. It's almost overwhelming. And so if we look at an organization, let's just say that has leadership, managers, salespeople. They have they're a professional service company, because I think that sometimes those are a little bit harder. How are they utilizing it? What is the first step?
Sure. So I like to tell everybody you start small. It's probably no different than what you do on your side too, or building a house. You don't try to change everything. You try to figure out, hey, how do I start in a small area and kind of figure it out? So starting small is probably the best way to not overwhelm people. Secondly, I always tell customers, learn a little bit about AI. Don't fear it. Understand that it's a tool. It can be very helpful. It's here. It's going to stay here. So get a little knowledgeable around it. Use ChatGPT. Listen to podcasts. Hear what's out there. See what other companies are doing. And that will start breaking down those barriers of fear, which we all know can stop and paralyze people. Or you said it becomes so overwhelming, they just don't do anything. So you have those two steps, right? The next thing is, within the company itself, leadership has to be involved in it. Leadership has to understand what's their AI strategy and what's their goals. And AI strategy doesn't have to be, oh, I got to roll out this specific model. You have to come from a perspective of, what is my business doing? What do I want it to do? And then how can we align AI around that overall strategy? I'll give you an example. So Amazon is purely focused on the customer. The customer experience is numero uno when it comes to Amazon.
Yeah.
As a user, if you call up and say, I didn't receive my package, you're sending another one. If you say it's damaged, no questions asked, they're going to send you another one. So Amazon is all about customer experience. They're using AI to further that customer experience, to improve it. So one that they actually rolled out probably a month and a half ago, they mentioned, is they're using AI now to look at the packages before they leave the building to make sure that they're in good condition. Because the last thing you want is a package showing up at somebody's house where it's crushed or damaged. That's a poor customer experience. No matter what you say, the end customer is saying, oh my God, you crushed my package, and they're upset. It continues to happen. You lose a client. So you have their strategy, which is customer experience purely focused. They took AI and aligned it to that strategy and said, how do I improve it? That's a good case study for what a company should do. So the company should sit down internally, with an AI group or AI team from different parts of their company and say, what do we want to do? What's an area of the business that we want to impact first? Right. It's probably better to look at cost savings. Yeah. That becomes a quick win. And that becomes something that the company says, wow, that actually makes sense.
Yeah. And then, I think what's really important, what I love what you just said, is they build their AI team. In my opinion, and I love yours, what I'm seeing in companies is that AI team is a eclectic, group of people throughout the organization, of all different seasons, of all different ages, of all different demographics, because everybody needs kind of their 2 cents, and so that putting that team together and getting people's feedback, I think, is really, really key to give some good insight. Because a lot of times the C-level execs that we're talking about are in their 40s, late 40s or 40s or 50s or 60s or older, and they weren't raised on technology, so they have to surround themselves. I mean, I know it's cliche-ish, but with people a lot smarter than them.
Yes, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
One is, it's actually going to break down some of the barriers too. So you would take that team. That team becomes, think of it as internal incubator with ideas. You have to give them some structure, of course, and say, look, here's the strategy of the company. Here's a strategy we'd like to follow. Find me a use case within the company and focus on cost savings, an area that can really benefit us. Start small. That team then becomes, once you adapt that use case and now you start working on a project to roll it out, they also become that team that's going to go out and market it for you within the company. Because the biggest change or biggest reluctance to change is that people don't want to accept it. So if you come up with a great AI model, you come up with savings, the team itself is jazzed about what it's going to do for the business, and then you try to roll it out and everybody doesn't use it, you've actually gone backwards. So that team then has to turn, no different than a movie, right? Actors make movies, and they have a portion of their contract that says you need to go on tour and start speaking to the press and market the movie.
Yeah.
You have to do the same thing when it comes to AI. So that same team can then transition to how do you market it out to the different departments, and then you build teams to start training. So you get everybody on board. So it becomes an acceptance of AI. That's how you become successful, and that's how you become proficient at AI. And then if you use the Malcolm Gladwell book of Outliers, where that whole framework is you keep teaching the ones that are doing well, they become layers and layers better, and those that aren't don't get the focus. You'll find that those companies become so proficient at AI, they become proficient at their modeling, their strategy, their groups, their training. They become leaps and bounds over the competition, and they're just bypassing everybody, and they're having great success. Yeah. If you don't do that, then it's like anything else. It's like getting any new tool. If you don't know how to use it, it just sits there, and it's money you spent, and you've gotten nothing for it.
Yeah, it's great. When it comes to AI, what is, I think one of the things that kind of pauses people is it's evolving so quickly. You have so many companies who are spending billions of dollars on AI. What it looks like 12 months from now probably will not be anything like it looks like today. Yes. And so when, we're talking about, what to do to start, but when do you start? Because by the time you're done, you may have to already evolve it.
Yes. So that is a trap that people can get into.
Right.
And it becomes, oh, look, I'll just sit back and I'll be an observer and I'll watch what's happening. However, that in this day and age, that's probably the worst thing to do. And I'll tell you why. Because it's evolving, because this isn't a fear response, but it is true. Your competition is most likely starting now. They built their teams. They're talking about strategy. They're coming up with ideas about modeling. They're focused on a modeling and their architecture internally that even as things change, they will change with it. I'll give another example. You have cloud providers. You have Microsoft Azure, you have AWS, you have Google Cloud, you have Oracle, you have IBM. The list goes on and on. What companies have done is they built their architecture where they can use a multitude of cloud providers. They don't have to sit there and standardize on just Azure. They can run Azure for certain processes, AWS for others, use Oracle for the financing aspects of it. Now Oracle has got a relationship with Microsoft they just announced. So that's coming together as well. But in that sense, they can plug and play what they need. That's going to be the future as well. You build your architecture to plug in LLMs, large language models, to apply to certain aspects of your business. If you like OpenAI's ChatGPT, use it for marketing. Yeah. If you like Anthropic, you use that one. If you like Stable AI, use that one, right? You come to a point where you do that. So going back to your question, you build your teams. You're talking about strategy. You start on cases. You start learning, failing, making mistakes, getting along the way. You become educated, where now as the market changes, you can change with the market.
Yeah.
If you sit back and do nothing and expect that things are going to change later on, you're going to be in a position where your competitors are already learned, they already have their teams, and they're moving light years beyond you. And now you're trying to play catch up. And we know in business, that's a bad place to be, especially with this. It's a revolution, AI. It is literally going to change everything. Like, I don't know if you saw Microsoft Copilot and some of the things that can do. Yeah. That's going to onboard a lot of companies with AI.
Yeah, no, I know Copilot's going to be amazing. All of it's going to be amazing. It's my daughter said to me the other day, when do you think we'll be able to sit in front of a computer and smell something from the other side? And I said, not too far away. I don't think, not too far away. It's it's amazing. I mean, I can't even imagine what the world's going to be like. I read an article. This was in 2018 or 2019 in the Atlantic. And it said that by 2030, 85% of the jobs that exist in 2030 don't even exist today.
I would agree.
Yeah. And so, and I don't even think we've seen the new businesses that the younger generations are going to be building as they get out of college, right? Yep. In the days to come. So, yeah.
I agree. I'll make 2 points. One is ChatGPT is going to be speaking to you soon. And that is leaps and bounds over what it was already doing. It's already hearing, listening. and providing information. They're building something called DALL-E into OpenAI, which is similar to Midjourney. We'll do all the images, everything you put in there will be available in October. So the next thing is, I recently heard one of the guys from OpenAI talk about how they're working on general intelligence. Artificial general intelligence was what everybody talks about, AGI. And it's about how to have it from a moral perspective and make sure it's doing all the right things. That's where they're focused. And the next part is, I did a recent post, what you just mentioned, about what's happening. So everybody fears that their job's going to be replaced. But it goes back to what I said a little bit earlier. Learn about things, learn about, AI, what it can do, etc. Your mind then opens up and you start to see other opportunities. Here's some opportunities that are going to come about. AI ethicists, people that are focused on the ethical aspects and moral aspects of AI. That's going to increase. You're going to have AI project managers. They're going to need to start training on that aspect of it and understanding that. That's going to be a new role.
Yeah.
I saw it. I posted the other day. Microsoft is already looking into nuclear technology in order to power all of its AI and services. They're getting to a point where I think I recently read too that OpenAI is using 2.3 terabytes of energy per year.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of 500,000 households. It's insane. So while they keep increasing, you're going to find all these other fields are going to start opening up. So you're right. Whatever is today, we're going to see so many other openings later on. But the more you learn about it, the less fear you have, the better position you're going to be in to move with the markets.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Kurt. One of the things I talk about a lot, I work with a lot of my clients on, how to be more productive. And, when we talk about learning, I'll suggest to clients a lot, just spend 1 minute a day, and then after 1 minute, spend 2 minutes a day and do your best to get up to 5 minutes a day. If you can get into 15 minutes a day, even 3-4 days a week, you're way above the majority of people. And you start to get ahead of real time as you commit to the consistent studying of it, just learning one new thing. So I think it's great. No, I love everything that you're talking about, and I'm excited. I've had a lot of people on the show. I just interviewed a gentleman who is the head of innovation at PayPal, who is very into AI. And we had a great talk on that as well. But I'm loving everything about AI. Let's do a quick speed round, Kurt. Tell me a book, a TED Talk, or an article that had a big impact on you.
Magic of Thinking Big. I can't remember the author. A very, very simple book, just like Who Moved My Cheese. Very simple books, but man, they're profound. And I believe life is about mindsets. It's that saying, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Yeah. No, I love
it. I love that book.
Yeah. Great book. Both great books. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Whatever you do, don't mess up your name. That's all you have.
That's a good one.
And that was my dad telling me like I was a young kid.
That's a good one. I love that one. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do to learn something new about AI is
listen to podcasts.
Yeah. Amen.
Business Live.
It's right. Thank you. Right. It is. Well, listening to podcasts really is great. You can listen to them on time and a half. You can get a lot of content. Before we started, you said, a lot of people like to go an hour, and I could talk to you for an hour, but I like to keep these under 20 minutes so people can get a full episode at time and a half as they drive to or from work.
Yeah.
But Kurt, this was great. Think Community. We talk a lot about learning. We talk a lot about differentiating yourself by being value add. One of my favorite TED Talks is Jeff Hoffman, The Power of Wonder. He's the founder and with CEO of Priceline. And he talks about in his podcast doing 15 minutes a day of info sponging, which is learning something outside of his industry for 15 minutes a day to learn how it's going to affect his industry and how they can, how his business then begins to morph just by studying every single day. And so I encourage everybody to, as I extract one thing from what you're sharing, Kurt, learn, everybody. Really commit to learning. Time block, put it in your calendar, be very clear and with intention, and don't resist it. Another great book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. We resist what we need to do most. And in my opinion, this is what we need to do most. It is really, really important to study this. There's a lot of jobs that will be fine, and there's some jobs that will evolve to new jobs. And so no matter what your age is, a way to differentiate yourself in community is to be armed with knowledge and experience. And knowledge is so readily available. Kurt, any last thoughts?
I would agree with you 100%. Listen to many podcasts you can. A great one is Joe Rogan and Mark Andreessen. It's 2 hours, but it'll open your eyes. Very well done. And get on LinkedIn, watch the community, see what they're talking about. Even follow me. You can see all the posts.
Awesome. Where can people connect with you?
LinkedIn, I'm under Kurt R. Stein, or you can find me on dctstrategy.com.
Good. This is great. And Think Community, you can reach me at jondwoskin.com. Have an amazing day, everybody. And we'll talk soon. Kurt, thanks. This was great. Appreciate your time.
Guys, thank you.